Let's go.
Now let's move into building more complex query filters, but this time around we're going to use ands and ors and show you how important it is and how you can group things to effectively pull the information that you need. We're going to talk about creating multiple filters. We've already done that, but now we're going to change the default of an and learn how to mix and match to create ands and or conditions both. We're going to show you how you can use brackets. The bracketing is actually done automatically by WebIntelligence, but as we move things around, they get regrouped or rebracketed. We're going to talk about that as part of this section and basically, fundamentally, mix the ands and the ors together. Okay? We'll have some exercise where we're creating some complex conditions with some excellent examples where we get an opportunity to see it in action from a real-life practical view. And of course, we'll have demos throughout this section. So let's move into our next part here and let's create some multiple query filter conditions and let's learn how to mix the ands and the ors. In order for logical operators with an and condition to work, that means both conditions must be true. Or if you have more than two, all of them must be true. An or condition is like a union rather than intersect, and any one of those can be true, but don't necessarily have to have all. And that's what our series of demos will now demonstrate. We'll shift left or right by using a simple drag and drop method, and that will determine which ones are grouped together with which other conditions that comprise it. And the order of the operations will be very important, as we'll see. Okay. And qualifies when 3 or more conditions exist. With 2 conditions, you're only going to have an and or an or. It's a very simple condition. But most of you are going to create conditions that have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or many, many more. And now your life gets a little more complicated, but don't worry. Webby makes it easy for us and gives us the flexibility to group those any way we want using simple drag and drop. Now we're going to show you the second part of this chapter. We're going to get into how you can do mixing of your query filters using ands and ors. And most people said, why would I do that? Trust me, you will have uses for this feature. It's an amazing feature, tremendous power, and allows you literally to mix and match. And this is a reality what you're all going to be faced with. So let me do an example to show you how powerful this is. I'm going to bring in year and quarter and sales revenue and quantity sold, and I'm not going to put any query filters in. And we're going to run it. And we're going to get all of our data as we expect. There's no query filters, means all rows of data are coming back. So as the report comes up, let's move it around a little bit. You'll notice it's got all my years with each of the quarters. Let's apply a break on year. Let's group it by year. My favorite function on the analysis tab is the break. So I'll highlight year and hit the break. And now each year is broken out by quarters. It makes it easy for us to see. 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay? I'm doing work for the federal government. The federal government has a different fiscal year. And I want it for the period 2012-2013. What does that mean? I want the 4th quarter of 2012 and in addition to that, quarters 1, 2, 3 of 2013. If it was a regular calendar year, you would just put in a filter that says year equal to your year. Unfortunately, life's not that simple here. We have a mixture of years and quarters. And how in the world are we going to put these together or package together these sets of query filters so I get only 2011 quarter or 2012 quarter 4 and only 2013 quarters 1, 2, and 3? Presents a very interesting dilemma. How do we do that? Well, let's show you what you need to do. We'll go back to Data Access Edit, because this is a query panel. And what we do, we define each set of conditions first. So I need to set up a filter for year 2012 with quarter 4. So let's bring the year down into the query filter window. We'll click the down arrow for value from a list and we'll pick just 2012. Okay. Yes, I could have used an equal to. I'll bring quarter down, and for quarter there, what do I need for a value? Only quarter number 4. Doesn't matter what year you pick it from, it just needs a quarter 4. This is that cascading feature that really doesn't work as it should. Okay, it should create a 2010 filter, but it doesn't. So now we have year 2012 and quarter 4. If I stopped and ran this, that would give me one slice of the federal government's fiscal year. But there's another slice I'm missing, and that's year 2013, quarters 1, 2, and 3. Separate set of filters. We drag year down again. We select 2013 from the values from a list. And yes, I could have made it an equal to instead of an in list. But an in list gives us that additional flexibility. It may be 1 today. It might be 2 tomorrow. So it's up to you. And then I bring quarter down again. And for this particular quarter, I need quarters 1, 2, and 3. So again, it doesn't matter what year you pick them from. We just need 3 of them, so I'll pick 1, 2, and 3. I'll do a multi-select shortcut to bring them all over. And lo and behold, look at what we get. Year 2012 and quarter 4, and 2013 and quarters 1, 2, and 3. Very important to see the and out in front. Let's run that. Watch what we get. A big goose egg, 0 rows of data, no data to retrieve. So you look at the edit and say, what happened here? Well, there's an and. So it can't be 2010 and quarter 4 and 2013 and quarters 1, 2, 3 at the same time. So the 2-year ones alone is what was enough to cause everybody to get bounced out, not selected. I can't be 2012 and 2013 at the same time. Similarly, I can't be quarter 4 and quarters 1, 2, 3 at the same time. Not going to work. Simple, basic logic. You said, well, make it an OR. That'll fix it. So we'll make it an OR and we'll run it. And now all of a sudden, look what we get. 2010, 11, 12, and 13. Look closely. Looks to me like all the data's there. That's exactly it. What happened? Well, it said either 2012 or 2013 data. Okay, that was enough right there to qualify anybody. Or quarters 4 or quarters 1, 2, and 3. All right? So it really, there's a quarter combination that qualified all the rows. So I really couldn't do it with an and out in front, and I really couldn't do it with an or out front. So somewhere in between, there's got to be a blend or a mixture that'll allow me to do exactly that. How am I going to go about that? Well, what we need to be able to do is to group things together. And logically, as you look at this example, what needs to be grouped? 2012 and quarter 4. What else needs to be grouped? Quarters 1, 2, and 3 for 2013, but separate groups. There's separate conditions that need to be anded together so they're done as an intersect. It's a very easy thing to do in Webby. What you do is you grab a filter from down in the query filter area and you drag it over the top of the one you want it grouped with. See how I kind of moved it to the right? And it automatically grouped them together. Now the term that BusinessObjects uses, it calls it bracketing. It bracketed together. Call it whatever you want. When I look at it, it just grouped year and quarter together, and I use the term grouping, which to me seems more logical. But grouping and bracketing mean the same thing. It did put an and connector out in front, and that's exactly what we want. We want 12 and quarter 4 as a match set. So the and is there. I could make it an or, but that wouldn't make sense. I want it as an and. Then I want to take the second set, 2013, and grab one over the top of the other. It doesn't matter which one you drag. And by the way, they're not always going to be right next to each other. One could be on the top, one on the bottom. You drag one down, you drag one up. Your choice. Okay? And they can be an uneven number. I can have 3 in the first group and 5 in the second. There's no limit. You can go down many, many levels deep as well. We're going to keep it simple because most of your multiple ands and ors are going to be along the lines of what you see right here. Kind of a good best practices guideline. Another one of my favorite quotes. Higher level or lower level ands. Very good rule to follow when dealing with multiple query filters and the blending. You always have a higher level or, then the lower level conditions are the ones you want anded or grouped together. So in theory then, this looks pretty darn good. It should give me 2012 and quarter 4, or it should give me 2013 and quarters 1, 2, and 3. Let's run it and find out. And lo and behold, look at what I got. Pretty cool stuff. 2010, 12, quarter 4. 2013 gave me the quarters 1, 2, and 3, and that's exactly what I wanted. Now, the only effective way to do that was to have a way of grouping things together or bracketing them together. See all the brackets that they put out? That's what BusinessObjects generates. That's its way of denoting that those are grouped together. And again, I could have added month into this one, and I could have added week into that one. They don't have to necessarily be even numbers or even on the same set of values, but they logically have to make sense. Now, if you want to even them back up, you can drag them back to the left. It's an intricate process, but I'm going to move these all back over, so I want to get them all lined up. What if I wanted to pair these up a different way? Let me give you one that you would normally not do, but let's assume you had some ridiculous request that said, what I'd like to do is 2012 with quarters 1, 2, and 3, and 2013 I want grouped with quarter 4. Totally different combination. Well, let's take the 2012, drag it down to the bottom over the top of the quarters 1, 2, 3 in the bottom. It automatically bracketed those together. We called it grouping. They call it bracketing. So I've got 2012 and quarters 1, 2, and 3. Conversely, or similarly, we'll drag the other ones above it on top of each other to group those together or bracket those together. And now I have 2013 and quarter 4. Okay? Grouped in a different combination, higher level or lower level ands. Let's run the query. And now when I run the query, I get a different combination. 2012 for the first 3 quarters, but 2013 quarter 4. Yes, kind of a ridiculous way, but what if for some odd reason they wanted them paired that particular way? It just points out that you can group them any way you need to group them. Let's put them back the way they should have been so we don't get confused by this. So I've got to drag them all the way back to the left. Takes a little bit of work sometimes to line them all up. So 2012 needs to go with quarter 4, so we'll drag it down to the quarter 4 one here. So 12 and quarter 4 are bracketed or grouped. We'll put year up here on top of quarter. Oh, didn't pick it up, so we'll move it just a little bit slightly to the right. We'll bring quarter down. It's being a little finicky, so we'll do it the opposite way. So now I have 2013 and quarters 1, 2, 3 grouped in this little subgroup here. The other one has the 2012 quarter 4, higher level or lower level ands. Let's see what we get. And in the final output, voila, look at that. Quarter 4 for 2012, quarters 1, 2, 3 for 2013. That was the only effective way you can do this. This is an amazingly simple concept, an amazingly simple thing to set up. And most people really get lost in the logic here. But what you're doing is you're grouping your different query filters together in related sets or groups as they tie together. And that's what we did here with the AND connector. 2012 and quarter 4 are grouped together. The AND connector is part of that. The 2013 quarter 1, 2, 3 are also grouped together, and you see those in action right here as well. One thing I got to caution you about, and I've seen people do this, is throwing prompts in for those values. By throwing in prompts, it's easy to lose track of what the underlying logic is, and you could screw it up. You could be very easily screw it up, because with a prompt, you're seeing what it's prompting for, but you're not seeing under the covers whether the ands and ors are there and how they're grouped together via the bracketing concept. And you could very easily set it up incorrectly. Very easy thing to do. So you really have to be careful about how you do that, how you go about it, or you could really run into some problems. So when you're mixing ands and ors, kind of a general best practice is higher level or lower level ands. And the lower levels can be any mixture and combinations. You can have more than 2 groups. In fact, in a subsequent workshop we'll be doing in a short little while, you're going to see where we have 3 distinct groups with different combinations, not all exactly the same. So it's unlimited possibilities, and this is an absolute integral part of query filtering, the ability to mix ands and ors. You have to have that functionality or you're not going to be able to properly filter your data. You can do something along these lines similarly with local filters. You're going to be a little bit more limited in scope, be a little bit more difficult to do, but it does kind of give you some of that functionality within the local query or the local filtering concept as well. That completes the modules on complex query filters. Two important topics were prompts and prompt properties, and then we completed our section on ands and ors. Now we're going to move into the hands-on lab exercise portion of it, where we'll get an opportunity to apply what we've learned and see it in action.